She walked into the interview with confidence, only to be mocked, doubted, and dismissed, until the CEO stepped in, bowed, and revealed the truth about who she really was. Monica Elridge didn't walk into Winstead Technologies like she was desperate for a job. She walked in like a woman who had already earned the right to be there. Navy blue suit, clean lines, no frills, comfortable heels, hair pulled into a soft twist, resume printed on thick paper, held neatly in a folder. She had rehearsed nothing. She didn't need to. It was 9:47 a.m. when she stepped into the glass building off Research Boulevard in Austin, Texas. The morning sun caught the steel signage as she approached. Clean, cold, modern. She paused at the reception desk, greeted the young woman behind the counter with a polite, "Good morning," and waited as the woman glanced at her, looked her up and down, and then smirked. Monica didn't flinch, but she noticed. "Interview?" the receptionist asked, without bothering to check the list. "Yes, Monica Elridge. I have a 10 o'clock with the strategy team." The receptionist tapped something on her screen, gave a tight nod, and said, "You can wait over there," motioning toward a row of chairs near the wall. No smile, no eye contact. Monica walked over and sat, smoothing the hem of her skirt. The leather seats were stiff, cold. She crossed her legs, opened her folder, and stared straight ahead. At 9:56, a man in a maroon button-down and khakis strolled past the waiting area. He glanced at Monica, then did a double-take. He slowed, looked again, and let out a quiet chuckle. "Deliveries go through the back," he said, loud enough for her to hear, but not so loud that anyone else might call it out. Monica looked up, held his gaze, didn't blink. "I'm not here for deliveries," she said flatly. He kept walking, pretending he hadn't heard her. 10 minutes later, a woman in a lavender blazer appeared and called Monica's name. She was maybe in her early 30s, friendly enough, but her eyes shifted a little too quickly when Monica stood up. "Right this way," she said. "We'll be in conference room 3. They walked down a carpeted hallway that smelled faintly of coffee and printer toner. Monica could see glimpses into glass offices, some folks typing away, others in small meetings. She caught a few stares, not curious ones, measuring ones, judging ones. Inside conference room 3, 3 people were already seated, 2 men and 1 woman. One of the men had salt and pepper hair and wore a pinstripe suit. The other had a buzz cut and a smartwatch he kept glancing at. The woman was young, pale, and wore bright red lipstick that didn't match her blouse. Monica smiled politely and extended her hand. "Monica Elridge, it's nice to meet you." They responded, but not with the warmth she was used to. The buzz-cut guy didn't bother to rise. The woman gave a quick handshake and then immediately looked at the papers in front of her. Pinstripe man tilted his head slightly and said, "You're a little overqualified for this position, aren't you?" The question hung in the air like a dare. Monica replied evenly, "I don't believe qualifications should ever be a disadvantage." Pinstripe raised an eyebrow. "Fair enough," he said. "Let's get started." And just like that, the interview began. Not with curiosity, but with quiet resistance. But things were about to get worse, inside that conference room. Monica had been in plenty of interviews before, some sharp, some awkward, a few that turned into job offers within minutes. But this one? From the second question, she could feel something was off. "Walk us through your employment gap," said the woman in red lipstick, flipping through Monica's resume like she was searching for a missing piece. "You haven't worked in, 4 years?" "I stepped away to care for my mother full-time," Monica answered. "She had advanced Parkinson's. She passed away last spring." There was a pause. The buzz-cut guy didn't even pretend to acknowledge the weight of what she'd just said. "And how do we know you're up to speed?" he asked, leaning back in his chair. "A lot's changed in 4 years." Monica kept her tone calm. "That's true, which is why I've spent the past year consulting on several short-term projects. I can speak to recent case studies if you'd like." Buzzcut guy nodded, unimpressed. "Sure, but real corporate strategy isn't something you can just dip in and out of." She looked at him directly. "You'd be surprised what you can stay sharp on, when you've been in the game long enough to help shape the rules." That quieted the room for a second. But then came the next question, this time from Pinstripe. "You were a director at Alden Rowe Partners," he asked. "Why would someone with that background apply here for a mid-level role?" Monica didn't flinch. "Because I was told this company is evolving, and I'm interested in companies that are ready to build something lasting. Hierarchy doesn't impress me. Vision does." Again, that pause. Again, no reaction. Monica knew what they were really asking. Why would someone like her apply here? Not someone with her resume, someone with her presence, her confidence, her skin. Red Lipstick smiled a little, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Well, we're very results-driven here," she said. "We want team players who can collaborate without making things personal." "I think the results speak loudest when the room actually listens," Monica replied, still calm. "But I understand. Some rooms aren't used to certain voices." Buzzcut let out a breath that was dangerously close to a laugh. "Let's talk metrics," he said, flipping through his printout. "You mentioned in your cover letter that you led a restructuring project that saved over $4 million annually. Is that verifiable?" "Absolutely," Monica said. "The team I led consolidated vendor contracts across 3 departments. I have documentation if you'd like to see it." Pinstripe waved a hand. "We'll get to that. Let's stay high level. Tell me, what's your strategy for managing pushback in a team that doesn't see things your way?" "I listen first," Monica said. "Then I ask better questions. People want to be heard before they follow." Red Lipstick raised a brow. "That sounds a little idealistic." Monica gave the smallest smile. "Maybe, but I've seen it work." And that was when it hit her. They weren't here to find someone qualified. They were here to test her patience, to see if she'd bend, if she'd crack, if she'd fold under pressure like she didn't belong there in the first place. They weren't interviewing her. They were poking the bear. But Monica didn't growl. She didn't rise. She sat, elegant and still, answering every condescending question with grace. There were moments she wanted to walk out, but not because she was hurt, because she knew they didn't deserve her. Still, she stayed, not out of desperation, but out of discipline. She didn't owe them her silence, she gave them her strength. But what none of them realized was that Monica wasn't new to this game. They were looking at Monica like she had something to prove, like she'd just walked in off the street with a half-finished resume and a chip on her shoulder, like they were doing her a favor by letting her sit at their table. But they didn't know her story. Monica Elridge was born and raised in Bakersfield, California. Her father, Clarence, was a long-haul truck driver. Her mother, Roberta, worked nights at Memorial Hospital as a respiratory therapist. They didn't have much money, but they had pride, and they passed it on to their only daughter like an inheritance. By the time Monica was 10, she was reading the Wall Street Journal cover to cover. Her father brought it home every week like it was treasure. "You want to know where the power moves are being made, baby girl?" he'd say, slapping the front page. "Right here. Not on TV, not on the news. Here." She listened. By high school, she was tutoring other students in economics. By senior year, she'd secured a scholarship to Spelman College in Atlanta. She majored in economics and graduated summa cum laude, 3rd in her class. She didn't attend the graduation party. Instead, she packed 2 bags and flew to Boston for a summer internship at a global consulting firm. That internship turned into a job offer. That job turned into a career. She didn't just climb the ladder, she rebuilt it under her feet. By 33, Monica was one of the youngest senior strategists at Hensley Klein, a Fortune 100 firm based out of Minneapolis. Her name showed up in trade magazines. She gave guest lectures at Stanford and Georgetown. She led teams, closed deals, advised boardrooms filled with men twice her age. But then her mother got sick, and everything stopped. Parkinson's doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't care about career arcs or corner offices. Monica took a leave of absence, then extended it again. Eventually, she resigned altogether. She moved back to Bakersfield. She took care of Roberta full-time. Appointments, medications, speech therapy, feeding tubes, all of it. "I can always get another job," she told her mother once. "But I can't get another you." For 4 years, Monica disappeared from LinkedIn updates and magazine lists, but not from herself. She read, she kept sharp. She picked up consulting gigs where she could, remote work mostly, project-based, low visibility. She didn't need a spotlight to know she still had the fire. After her mother passed, Monica took time to breathe, to grieve, to remember who she was before it all. And when she was ready, she didn't go looking for just any position. She looked for one with purpose. Winstead Technologies was on her radar for one reason: a quiet phone call with someone she once mentored, a young black woman named Patrice Callowell, now a senior analyst in Winstead's finance division. "They're trying to change things," Patrice had told her. "But there's pushback, a lot of it. The culture's still got pockets." "Pockets?" Monica asked. "Bias," Patrice whispered. "And blind spots. You'd make waves here, Monica. The right kind." So Monica submitted her resume. No favors, no backdoors, no name-dropping. She sent it through the same online portal as everyone else. What she didn't know, what the panel didn't know either, was that the CEO had seen it. Leon Carmichael wasn't a man who forgot names. 10 years ago, Monica had helped his company out of a deal that could have sunk their profit margins. She had no idea he still remembered. But he did. But there was someone in the building who had seen her resume and hadn't forgotten her. Back in conference room 3, things were shifting, but not in Monica's favor. The longer the interview dragged on, the more obvious it became that they weren't actually interested in what she brought to the table. They just wanted to see how long she could sit there and take it. Buzzcut leaned forward and said, "Let's do a quick exercise. You're handed a team resistant to your leadership style. What's your first move?" Monica didn't hesitate. "I sit with them. I listen. I identify what they think the problem is before I assume it's about me." "Interesting," he replied with a half-smile. "So you start by being soft?" The word hung in the air like a taunt. Monica tilted her head slightly. "No, I start by being smart." That shut him up for a moment. But Pinstripe jumped in. "We're a fast-paced environment here. This isn't the kind of company where we hold hands and sing songs around the campfire. We need someone who can drive results without slowing the team down." Monica's eyes narrowed, just slightly. "Clarity isn't a slowdown. It's fuel. You can't drive anywhere if your team doesn't know where you're headed, or why." Pinstripe gave a tight smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "Well, that's one approach." And then Red Lipstick chimed in, tapping her pen against the table. "Monica, I'll be honest. You come across very direct. Some folks here might interpret that as combative. Would you be willing to adjust your tone if asked?" Monica didn't blink. "Is my tone the issue, or your comfort level with women who don't downplay themselves?" Red Lipstick blinked twice. Buzzcut shifted in his seat. For the first time since Monica walked in, they were off balance. Still, no one said anything. No one apologized. No one admitted what was really happening in that room. They just pressed on, like this was all normal. Another question. Another backhanded remark. Another attempt to chip away at her. But Monica didn't bend. She didn't shrink. She gave them precision. She gave them poise. She didn't raise her voice once, but her presence filled that room like a wave. And just when it felt like they were circling back to the same tired questions, why this job? Why now? Why her? The door opened. No knock. No warning. Just the quiet sound of a stainless steel handle turning, and the glass door swinging wide. Everyone turned. In walked Leon Carmichael. The room stilled. He wasn't wearing a tie. He rarely did. Just a tailored grey suit and a calm expression. His greying beard was neatly trimmed. His phone was in his hand, but he wasn't looking at it. He looked straight at Monica. Red Lipstick straightened in her seat. Pinstripe sat up. Buzzcut cleared his throat. "Leon," Pinstripe said quickly. "We didn't know you were—" Leon raised one finger. Not rudely, just enough to silence the room. He walked toward Monica, calm and sure, his eyes never leaving hers. When he reached the table, he stopped beside her chair. Then he did something none of them expected. He smiled, extended his hand, and bowed, just slightly. "Miss Elridge," he said, voice steady. "Thank you for coming. We've been looking forward to this." He turned toward the panel. "The chairwoman's seat is still open," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "If she'll have it." Silence. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Monica looked at him, studying his face. Then slowly she stood and shook his hand. "Mr. Carmichael," she said. "It's been a while. You still make rooms shift," he said, almost to himself. But that moment didn't just change Monica's life. It cracked something wide open inside that company. The silence in that conference room didn't feel respectful. It felt exposed, like someone had yanked the curtain back and now everyone had to sit in what they'd allowed to happen. Buzzcut tried to recover first. "Leon, Mr. Carmichael, this is just a preliminary screening. We haven't gone through the full candidate pool yet." Leon didn't even look at him. He turned back to Monica, gestured gently toward the hallway and said, "Let's find a quieter space to talk." She didn't look back at the panel. She didn't need to. She gathered her folder, straightened her suit jacket, and followed Leon out without a word. They walked in silence for a moment until they reached a private meeting room 2 doors down. No glass walls here, just clean white walls, a wooden table, and the soundproof quiet that important conversations demand. Leon closed the door and exhaled through his nose. "I knew your name looked familiar," he said, pulling out a chair for her. "Didn't realize until I saw your face." Monica sat, calm as ever. "I didn't think you'd remember. You saved us a nightmare with that merger fallout in 2014. I haven't forgotten what leadership looks like." She nodded once. "Well, I'm not sure the folks in that room would agree." Leon shook his head slowly, disappointment crossing his face. "I'm not surprised. That panel is on borrowed time. They don't get to decide who leads here. I do." "Then why am I here?" she asked plainly. He looked at her for a long moment. "Because Patrice Callowell sent me your resume, said you were the future this company needed. She was right. And because we're cleaning house, Monica. Not on paper. For real. Quietly. Firmly, starting from the inside." Monica tilted her head slightly. "You think one person can change a culture that's broken?" "I think the right one can," he said. "And I'm not offering you middle management. I want you to sit where people don't expect you to, where you'll be seen, loudly." She took a breath. Not from shock, but from calculation. "Chairwoman," she repeated. "Why me?" "Because you've already done the job in harder places, under more pressure, with less credit," he said. "Because they thought they could box you out, and because you'll scare the hell out of everyone who's gotten too comfortable." Monica leaned back in her chair, processing. "Will I have the authority to restructure?" she asked. "Full authority. Policy changes? Your call. And hiring? You make the rules." She looked at him carefully. "And when they push back?" Leon gave the slightest shrug. "Then they're welcome to find the door." Monica paused. "I'm not interested in being a symbol," she said. "I'm not here for PR. If I do this, I'm changing everything. Top to bottom," he smiled. "That's what I'm counting on." There was a knock on the door. Leon ignored it. "They already know," he said, gesturing vaguely. "Half the floor saw me walk in. It's probably starting to circulate." "I don't need applause," Monica said. "Just room to do the work." "You'll have it," he promised. She gave a small nod. "Then we're done here." Leon stood, extended his hand again. This time it was more than courtesy. It was confirmation. She took it, but shock was still rippling down the halls, and not everyone was ready for what came next. Word didn't trickle through the office. It spread like heat through metal. By the time Monica and Leon stepped out of that meeting room, people were pretending not to stare. Desks that had been buzzing with quiet chatter were suddenly focused. Screens glowed a little brighter. Keyboards clicked a little louder. But eyes kept drifting. It didn't matter that no announcement had been made yet. The message was already out. People saw her leave the interview room, then saw her walking beside the CEO. No one needed an email to do the math. The 3 interviewers from earlier were still in conference room 3. Monica passed them without a glance. But Leon? He paused in the doorway. We'll follow up this afternoon, he said simply. Don't make any assumptions in the meantime. Pinstripe looked like he wanted to speak. He didn't. Back in the elevator, Leon turned to Monica. I know what you walked into this morning. I know what they said. She met his gaze. Then I hope you also know what they didn't say, but meant, he nodded slowly. That's exactly why you're here. Monica returned to her car without ceremony. She didn't speed. She didn't cry. She didn't call anyone. She drove to a small cafe off South Lamar, ordered a black coffee, and sat at a corner table facing the door. It wasn't until the second sip that it all started to settle in. It wasn't just a new title. It was a reclamation. Meanwhile, at Winstead Technologies, things weren't quiet. Patrice Callowell received a message on her work chat. Is it true? She's the new chairwoman? She didn't answer. In the break room, two analysts whispered over microwaved lunches. Wait, she's that Monica Elridge? The one from Hensley Klein? Guess so. Carmichael escorted her himself. Some whispered support. Some whispered fear. Others whispered worry that the old guard might finally be pushed out. Red Lipstick paced in her office for over 10 minutes before knocking on Leon's door. He waved her in but didn't rise. I'd like to clear the air, she said carefully. Earlier, I may have come off too direct. Leon didn't say anything. I just want to clarify that my intention was never to... You don't need to finish that sentence, he said calmly. But you will sit through a full review of every interview you've led in the last 2 years. She blinked. Is that really necessary? I'd say overdue, he replied, without a flicker of emotion. She swallowed, nodded once, and left. Monica received a formal offer later that afternoon. It wasn't just an executive position. It was an invitation to restructure the company's leadership division, to reassess hiring practices, rewrite the handbook, oversee the diversity board, not in title but in action. She didn't accept immediately. Instead, she asked for a one-on-one with each executive director. No assistants, no agenda. 1 hour each. Some agreed quickly, others delayed. But they all knew what this meant. This wasn't a hire. This was a shift. That night, Monica sat at her kitchen table, reviewing internal memos and policy documents Leon had sent over. Legal compliance, staff demographics, leadership promotion history. It was all there. And most of it didn't surprise her. The numbers told the same story the looks in that interview room did. And that's when she smiled for the first time that day. Not out of satisfaction, but clarity. She knew exactly what needed to be done. But this wasn't just about her anymore. Monica showed up for her first official day 2 weeks later. She didn't enter through the back. She didn't take the private elevator. She walked through the front doors of Winstead Technologies at 8:03 a.m., holding a leather portfolio and wearing a dark green blouse, tailored slacks, and a calm expression that said, I'm not here for applause. I'm here for business. The receptionist, same one from the interview day, stood up before Monica even reached the desk. Ms. Elridge, good morning. Welcome back. Monica gave her a polite smile. Thank you. Is Patrice in yet? I believe so. I'll let her know you're on your way up. People noticed. They always do. Elevators got quiet when she stepped in. Conversations paused. Some were cautious, unsure of what her presence meant. Others avoided her completely, keeping their heads down and their comments to whispers. But Monica didn't flinch. She wasn't there to make friends or enemies. She was there to build something that would outlast her. By 9 a.m., she was in a closed-door meeting with senior leadership. 11 directors, 3 VPs, Leon, and 2 HR officers sat at the table. Monica stood. No slideshow, she said. No charts. Just a question. She looked around the room slowly. How many of you can honestly say you've been challenged, really challenged, by someone who didn't look like you? Silence. She waited. One of the directors, a woman in her 50s with a crisp bob haircut, cleared her throat. I don't think we're opposed to being challenged. That's not what I asked, Monica said. More silence. I've read every hiring report, promotion file, and disciplinary record for the last 5 years, she continued. I've seen the patterns, Some of them are unconscious, others are not, and that's fine, because now they're mine to fix." A VP leaned forward cautiously. "What exactly do you mean by fix?" "I mean rewrite," Monica replied. "From policy to culture to accountability." Some faces went stiff. Monica continued. "There will be bias response training, mandatory exit interview audits, and anonymous performance review feedback loops. And if any of that sounds unnecessary to you, you should probably think twice about staying in leadership." It wasn't a threat. It was a choice. Monica spent the following weeks in a constant rhythm, meeting, listening, reviewing, correcting. She didn't storm in with slogans or mission statements. She moved with precision. She started weekly office hours. Anyone in the company, janitor to junior analyst, could sit down and speak with her directly. No appointment needed. The first week, no one showed. The second week, 3 came. By the third, her assistant had to schedule people in blocks. Stories poured in. A woman who'd been passed over for a promotion 3 times. A black engineer whose idea had been credited to a different team. A new hire whose orientation materials still listed outdated harassment policies from 5 years ago. Monica took notes. She followed up. Quietly, but firmly. She never raised her voice. She never once reminded anyone of what had happened during her interview. She didn't have to. The building remembered. Patrice walked into her office one afternoon holding a tray of coffee. "You've got folks in IT saying you're the reason they're staying," she said, setting down the cups. "And one guy in marketing swears you're secretly the new CEO." Monica laughed softly. "Tell him I don't want the CEO's job. I'm too busy actually running things." Patrice raised an eyebrow. "You good?" "I'm good," Monica said. "And we're just getting started." But even with the seat at the table, Monica knew the work was just beginning. Monica Elridge sat alone in her new corner office one evening, just past 6:30. The building had quieted down. Most of the staff had gone home. Outside her window, the sky was fading from gold to grey. Downtown Austin flickered to life in the distance. She didn't move much, just sat still, one hand resting on a yellow legal pad, the other wrapped around a cooling cup of tea. Her desk wasn't cluttered, just a framed photo of her parents, a closed laptop, and a stack of folders marked Internal Review. There was no big moment, no parade, no announcement over loudspeakers or glossy photos in company newsletters. And that's how she liked it. Because for Monica, the win wasn't the title. It was the shift, the knowing glances that no longer carried that edge of dismissal, the employees who finally felt comfortable speaking up, the interns who walked a little straighter after seeing someone like her at the top, not smiling for decoration, but making decisions. She thought about that interview, the way they looked at her, the way they questioned her tone, her resume, her place in the room. They had no idea what they were looking at. And maybe that was the point. When she told her late mother she wanted to work in strategy, Roberta had said, "Baby, they'll try to turn your voice down, but never give them the dial." She hadn't. She'd just kept talking. Clear, measured, loud enough to build something permanent. That's the thing no one tells you about power. It's not always handed to you. Sometimes you walk in already carrying it, and the ones who try to keep you small, they only remind you how big you really are. Monica didn't rewrite company culture in a week. She didn't magically end workplace bias. But she did prove one thing without ever saying it out loud. You don't have to beg for the seat. You are the seat. And now, she was building a longer table. She stood, grabbed her coat, and flipped the light off. No drama, no exit speech, just quiet purpose in every step as she walked out the door. Tomorrow, she'd be back. And the day after. And every day after that, until this wasn't an exception anymore. It was the expectation. If you've ever been doubted, talked over, or made to feel like you had to shrink to fit the room, don't. Grow anyway. Take your seat. And if that seat doesn't exist yet, build your own. Subscribe if you believe that strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just shows up. Every day. Until the room changes.